Good morning. Good evening. Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Please turn on your cameras.
Good evening.
Yes. It is dark outside. All right. I know more of you have faces than that. Please. All right. So last week we had hold on a second here. Just make sure my audio settings are all right. Okay, cool. Yeah, so last week we had a really nice class with Javier. He's part of our teacher certification program is giving new teachers the opportunity to teach. So thank you for humoring him. Thank you for being there live for the class. And I think he did a really excellent job. So we're coming to some of my favorite parts of Shanti Deva. And it's actually one of my, this is my favorite topic that's coming up right now. So sorry, not sorry if I get really passionate about it. So but before I get passionate about it, I have some ideas and thoughts that I want to share with all of you. And it's basically we need a little bit of help and wanted to see what you all thought about it. You can just cook it for a little bit. So last night, I had a very beautiful dinner. It's a French restaurant here in Kyoto called Chez Michel. So Chez means at the house of, right, in French. Wait, the other place. Chez means at the house of Michel, which means Michael. It's very auspicious, being that it's Geshe Michael's favorite restaurant. Okay, so we went there last night. We had a very beautiful evening talking about, strangely, all things ACI. Very rarely do I get a meeting like that. So it was really cool, and a lot of the directors were there too. So it was pretty much a brainstorm of what we're going to do with ACI, how we're going to grow, how we're going to change, how we're going to make things even cooler and more difficult for the production team. None of them are actually the people who really worry about it are here, except for Gina. So Gina, you can tell everybody that they're missing out. So basically, one of the things Geshe Michael and I were talking about is we were talking about the successes of ACI, and we're talking about the successes of these courses. And we were talking about possibly some of the limitations of the courses, right? And basically, you can pass these courses if you're really good at doing homeworks, right? If you're really good at reading, coming to class, filling out the homework online or on paper. I wrote all my homeworks out. That was back in the day. Still have them all. You see, so, and in that way, it's very much an academic type of course, right? It's very much like come to the course, do the homeworks, and somehow that's going to make you a better person. It should make you a better person. But there's lots of people that, have this idea that ACI is like, if I do my homeworks, I'm going to be a better person. Or I've achieved something, right? Here's my certificates. Ta-da, right? I have 12 certificates. I have 18 certificates. There's some people that, they really pride themselves on that. And it is an accomplishment. I'm not trying to diminish that, of course. But it doesn't necessarily make you a better person, and to be a better person, there's a lot more to this than just coming to classes and doing the homeworks. And the homeworks really aren't an indicator of success either, because you could be a machine and just, or, in the case of the modern world, type it up, right? By the way, if you write it out, you learn it much better than if you type it. Anything, for that matter. Just letting you know. There's something about writing things out for my generation and above. We all know how to still write. Right. But seriously, there's the ACI courses are in a lot of ways an educational course. They are study. They are lots of study, right? And there's a lot of cool things that can come from it. And there's some elements that are missing in the ACI curriculum that we don't really emphasize as teachings. We emphasize it in the aspect of practice. And you're kind of expected to do most of that on your own, and you kind of have to, frankly, right? Coming to class, Persis knows, like, we come to class all the time. We're in Kyoto together, and you're in class, and you're in class, you're in class, and like, the practice doesn't really, we call when the poop hits the fan and it starts spinning really fast and all the poop goes flying everywhere. Like, that's where your practice really is, right? It's not only there, but it's in lots of different places. But does it make you a better person? Just to come to the classes, just to do the homeworks, and I'm not saying don't do them. In fact, you should be doing them. In fact, if you want to go into the Diamond Way, you need to do your homeworks. You should get a homework buddy. You should get homework friends. You should work together. You should inspire each other. What you should do is, all you people who don't have your cameras on, when I'm going to shame you for a second, all the people that do have your cameras on, I want you to reach out to someone who doesn't have their camera on. Oh, there goes Z. Hi. It's early, I understand. But seriously, meet each other, work with each other, study with each other, commune together. Like, so many people, I've become really good, close friends with the people I did my homeworks with, because we became practitioners together. Right. And it's, there's so many of you, like, there's so many, like, there's 46 people here. This will inch up for a little bit. We tend to have 100 people in class, not to mention the people that listen, and many of you take classes here. Many of you are taking classes with other teachers. Those are the friendships that will last, because those are the people you talk to when you're having a problem and you're like, oh, dang it, I'm having this problem again. Then your friends listen to you, and then you start talking Dharma. You start talking about what did the teacher say? What did this person say? What did the text say about this? What is the practice for this? Right. And then you end up helping each other, planting seeds. Get it? You can't do it alone. Right. I had somebody ask me today about scheduling 2-hour meetings with students. And I was like, yeah, that's called a class. Come to class. I'm happy to answer student questions, and I'm happy to go there, but there's a certain level of work that you have to do, right? And you have to do it together. There's no other way. But part of the ACI courses are not just the ACI courses, right? And there's also other elements to that. And we're going to be, over the next 6 months, figuring out how we're going to incorporate this. But we're mainly going to be focusing on 5 kinds of practices or topics, and start including them in a lot of our coursework. So yes, the foundation courses, just plain old class time. Listen to your teacher, listen to any teacher talking about the pen. Ta-da, right? Talk about the pen, talk about the chew toy, talk about emptiness, talk about Shantideva, talk about all the stuffs, right? Over and over and over again. I've been going to classes for 20 years, not just Geshe Michael's classes, but 20 some years of Buddhist classes. And we just hang, it's just like you hear more every single time. You're like, oh, after 10 years. Listen, the Lam Rim that I'm reviewing, that I'm teaching you some of you in the next class, I'm like, oh my God, he told us everything in those first classes. I'm like, dang, I just didn't have the ears to hear it, right? My ears just didn't hear it yet. I wasn't ready to hear all the details. But over time, it just starts, it starts becoming an encompassing worldview. So it's not just the coursework. The other thing we're going to be focusing on heavily is meditation. You have to be able to meditate, right? It's not just like, here, why don't you do your little meditations at the end of the ACI classes as part of your homework, which you should be doing, right? It's also, can we teach you how to meditate? Can we have ongoing meditations? Can we have group meditations? Because that's how we move through the spiritual levels. That's how we get our mind ready to handle things when the poop hits the fan. And let me tell you guys, the last 2 days, so much poop has been hitting the fan. It's unbelievable. And I'm like, well, shit. Literally. I didn't mean that as a joke at the time. I'm sorry. But I'm like, dang, and how do you face it? Like, how do you face that problem? How do you face the challenge, and the challenge facing is like, we lost some funding, not in ACI directly, but we lost some funding, significant amount of funding, just like stopped. And we're like, that's 10 people's salaries. What are we going to do? I'm sitting here on this bed right here. Like, actually, it was early in the morning. Don't look at your phone before you meditate. Bad idea. But dumbass did it anyway. So it's like, laying in his bed over here in his beautiful room in Kyoto, reading messages. And I was like, by the way, did not meditate 2 days ago. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, that really sucks. And there's lots of options you have to respond in that moment. And I was like, well, there's now an absence, not emptiness, but there's an absence of money, right? It's like, oh, that's going to suck for the paychecks of 10 people. Oh, God. Couple emails, and, went through and I was like, okay, let's just relax. And, we talked about it. Oh, no, was this 2 days ago or yesterday? That was yesterday. It was yesterday. And, by the, 15 minutes later, we had a solution, right? Because we as a group are practitioners and we're thinking about seeds and we're thinking about how to react and how can we solve these problems in creative ways, right? And I'm not tooting my own horn. I am a little bit, but there's more about telling you the story, right? 10 years ago, Tim would have either hid under the covers for 2 more hours and had a total panic attack trying to figure out how to solve the problem. Or he probably would have tried to avoid the problem, or he would have tried to oh, I can't go to my boss about this problem. Oh my God, I can't believe this mistake. Oh, this is actually kind of my fault, or not really, but probably is, and I'm responsible. And I would have had a whole blah story in my head, which is, it's my fault, it's my karma, fine. I'm not perfect, not yet, trying. but meditation is the key. So when that poop does hit that fan, how can you stay focused, single pointed as best as you can, and not let your emotions overtake you? There's a time and place for emotions, and there's a time and place for processing emotions. And we shouldn't bury it, and we shouldn't re-traumatize ourselves and all those things. And that's an important discussion, and that's a different class, right? Someday I'll teach it. I'm planning on teaching stuff like that soon. But that's, but the point is that, I didn't have an emotional reaction like I used to. It wasn't like I was burying it. It was like, huh, well, that's the seeds that are ripening right now. That's fascinating. What are we going to do? So meditation, while it's key to progress spiritually, to see emptiness directly, for example, which we'll talk about in this class. It's also key when stuff is happening. How are you with other people? How are you with other people's problems? How are you with, people that depend upon you? How are you with those people? And you can smell a meditator. Like it's like, someone who meditates well, I'm like, what are you doing? Like you can really tell. So that's one thing we're going to be focusing a lot more on. I don't know where we're going to find the money. I don't know where we're going to find the staff, and I don't know where we're going to find the curriculum developers, but we're going to do it. Okay. So that's 2. There's 5 things, by the way. I'm giving you a list of 5. So it's foundation courses, meditation. Third aspect is going to be retreat. High focus on how do we, quote, retreat from our normal life to be able to go deeper into the practices. How do we take that time? How do we encourage that? How do we structure it? How do we offer more of it? You can do, how can we offer programs that you can just stay at home over the weekend and we just guide you, like a 2-day retreat or a 1-day retreat, or again, having more, I would love to have a retreat-based program based on each of the ACI courses. Finish ACI 1, great. Did your homework? Wonderful. Let's go meditate for a week on it. Right? Let's go find some retreat centers in your countries nearby, and we'll run programs where you can go and get taught deeper aspects of ACI 1 and how to meditate on ACI 1 and how to have the realizations and how to have that relate to your life. Speaking of relating to your life, that's what number 4 is, called Steps on the Path, Lam Rim. Right? How do we relate the teachings to normal people? I mean, even in your normal life, what's the relevance of ACI 1, the 3 principal paths in your life? And that's what Lam Rim teaches us. It teaches us how to, gets us out of the academic blah, 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 definitions and translations and all this other stuff, which of course I'm doing that in Lam Rim, so criticizing myself. But how do we make it accessible for people? And how do we create short sound bite type courses? Like, here's 10 short videos, 10 minutes each on Lam Rim, right? We need people to be able to do that. And then how do we wrap this all up in Diamond Way practice? Like the higher goal, right? And how do we start Diamond Way? How do we start in that? And we had a really cool idea last night. Well, excuse me, Geshe Michael had a really cool idea, and I liked it a lot. He said, really, there's 4 principal paths. There's renunciation, there's bodhicitta, there's wisdom. What do you think the 4th principal path is? I'll give someone $100 if they can give me the 4th principal path. I just gave you the answer, but I'm going to see if you synthesized it. And Persis, you're not allowed to say it because I think you said it today in class. Oh, you didn't go to class. Nope. Well, yeah, but that's not it. That's not what we're calling it. It's not called Diamond Way. The fourth principal path, cancel the bet. Sorry. I think I owe some people some money. If I owe you money, send me a text. I may have forgotten. The fourth principal path is starting your spiritual path by beginning to look for the magic in everything. Look for the divine. Look for the secret messages right away. Start looking for them. So we're going to be building all of that up together. And if you haven't been paying attention, I've been doing all of those things just sort of under the radar. So ACI is sort of taking that direction. So we need help. We need practitioners. We're going to need teachers. We're going to need people who can write curriculum. We need people who are going to help produce content in our upcoming meditation app that we're fundraising for so that we can have another source of income. Insight timer for worldview. Like our content only. We got a crap ton of content, right? But we need people. Like we need you. And that's why you're in these classes. You're not just in these classes because you're like, ooh, ACI 11, we have 7 more classes left. Yay. Right. There's a lot of other things going on. So part of what I wanted to share with you today and maybe sell a little bit is, where is this all going? Like week in, week out, you're here, you're dedicated to being here, right? Anastasia, did I clean my camera well enough? Or would you like me to? Okay. I just remembered she sent me a note, and I probably should lift it up a little bit higher, but I don't have all that stuff here. So all of these things, and we need help in those areas. Like maybe you want to be more of a meditation master. Maybe you want to be more of a Lam Rim master. Like, how do you reach normal people? Maybe you want to be more of a retreat master. Maybe you want to be an ACI nerd. Maybe you want to be a Diamond Way master. Maybe you want to be a master, right? You could be He-Man or She-Ra or They-Ra or whatever we're calling it these days, right? Like you have the power, right? You have all of them combined, like Captain Planet, right? All the elements combined. And then when you have all of those, when you have meditation, when you have retreat, when you have Lam Rim, you have the Geshe course, the 18 courses, when you have Diamond Way, like you have the complete package. Like that's what mastery is. Your 18 courses aren't the mastery, I'm sorry. It's a part of it. Laura is like, por Dios, el resto de mi vida. Ojalá, right? So think about it. Like, where do you want to go? Like, what is your passion? That's mainly what I'm asking. Like, maybe you want to be an all around, like, Mr. Miyagi, perfect master of everything. By the way, I almost went to Okinawa because I wanted to, I was going to go on vacation, and that's where Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid is from, if anyone cares about that reference. So, do you want to be, what kind of master do you want to be? Like, what kind of students do you want to have? Who do you want to reach out to? What's important to you? And we need that help. We need all of those people. And we need you. Like, okay, you're halfway through the courses. I get to we're having the talk. This is like, the birds and the bees talk. See, your children are like 3 or 4, right? A little too young still. A little too young, but this is like your spiritual birds and the bees talk. All right. Like, what are you doing? That's my question for you. Like, what's your motivation? Have you just done 11 courses because you think it's fun? Well, that's good. That's a good motivation. Have been looking for, you know, I don't know, there's lots of different motivations. But I'd like you to start thinking about like, what is it that's, you know, motivates you? Do you want to be, what kind of teacher, what kind of impact do you want to have? And I'm not talking about, there's so many different ways people can have an impact. Like you could be a family person, right? A mother or a father, and, raise one child like perfectly, you know, in the Dharma, for example, right? That's what Asanga's mom did. She raised two kids, right? Two half brothers, well, two different dads. Scandalous. Okay. Vasubandhu and Asanga, right? She all she did is raise two kids, right? And those kids wrote a tremendous number of the books that we study, right? That's all she did. Two kids, right? Or do you want to be like, like a Geshe Michael who has like hundreds of thousands of kids, right? You know, what does that mean? Or something in between. Like, what is your, you know, the impact you have? Like, the impact Asanga and Vasubandhu's mother had was out of this world. Two people, right? Ken Rinpoche had two primary students, right? Art Engel and Michael Roach. Okay. Two. The highest geshe you can possibly get in a monastery, the highest level of degree, two primary students, right? That's all he did. Art Engel is a phenomenal translator, writes many, many great books. And Geshe Michael is a phenomenal translator, writes many great books, and has students around the world, hundreds of thousands of them, right? What do you do? Like, where's your impact? But you can't just, your impact you have to think about your impact and who you want to reach out to. Because enlightenment is not about you. Sorry. You know, Shendun cheer for the benefit of others. So I wanted to give that sort of overview of where ACI is going, because we're going to be creating a whole new series of courses and study opportunities and engagement points in some ways to meet the demands of the modern world, which is completely different, right? I'm surprised we have this many students who have this much attention span. You listen to me talk every week for like 3 hours. Thank you. you know but like, how do we reach more and more people? How do we reach it to the place where people are just thinking about the pen? They don't know where the pen idea came from, but they go, yeah, could be anything. Could be a chew toy. This problem could be an opportunity. Like yesterday morning, like, is this a problem or is it an opportunity? Right, depending on your seeds. Well, let's start planting seeds that when poop hits the fan, you're like, yes, opportunity. Not, God, that smells. It might smell right now, but you're not like losing your shit, as we say in English. You see, Svetlana, you have to do a time zone check. I'm in Kyoto, but thank you very much. I very much appreciate the time tracker. So yeah, just think about it. And I also want you to think about is that if you have an inkling to go beyond these courses, people are asking, well, Tim, am I ready? Am I ready for Diamond Way? Am I ready? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, have you done your courses yet? How's your understanding of emptiness? Have you had disasters? How did you handle the disaster? How did you face the difficulty? How are your seeds behaving? Right? It doesn't mean everything has to be roses to get into the diamond way. In fact, if everything's not roses, things are probably going well for you. It's hard to see it that way, of course. But if that's something that you want, you know, you have to establish a relationship with a teacher. I mean, a relationship. I mean, like they have to know you. It's not like, they don't have to know you like a best friend knows you. That's not the case. But it's called yoga. It's a yoga-ing. It's a yoga-ing, right? What does yoga mean? It means to yoke, right? One of the meanings. It's like a binding or a bonding together between teacher and student. It's equally as powerful for the student as it is for the teacher, and it's equally responsible for the teacher as it is for the student. Right? So who is that person for you? Just because you come to my classes doesn't mean I'm the person, right? Who's your special glove? Like, who, what glove fits you the best? I've had people come and then, they're like, oh my God, I think I met my heart teacher. I'm like, yes, great. Good luck. Glad I got you this far. But who is that person for you? And you have to establish that relationship. Because they can guide you, really. And there's no pressure too. Lastly, before we get into the real content, which is, I don't know what is the real content. But lastly, like there's also the pressure is not, you should be hurriedly relaxed. Good luck, translators. You should be relaxed, but in a rush. Okay. Meaning that you have an opportunity in this life to do something cool with it. So you don't want to waste it. But you also have to be prepared too. So like the original courses took 7 years to teach. Geshe taught it that way in person. And he taught it that way on purpose, right? It takes that long to typically, not always, it takes that long to ripen the mind and the heart and then ripen the practice and to have some good old healthy disasters. And I mean that lovingly, like, if you haven't had any problems, you wouldn't need Diamond Way. Okay. If you don't have any problems, you don't need Buddhism. Well, if your seeds are that good, but there's no wisdom in it, then yes, you do eventually. But if you never have any problems, you don't need to get out of samsara. So think about it. Think about like why, like what are you doing? Like why are you here? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to get to? And how do you want to get to? And we have so many opportunities. So I need some help, right? We're going to need help. And the way we're going to solicit the help is just come to class and do your homework. Okay. Study, like help each other. Duh. Plant seeds. Duh. By helping each other. Right. This is why I want you to turn your cameras so you can see each other. Is there someone who looks like they could be a homework buddy? Right. And frankly, if I can't see you, I don't know you at all. I mean, I don't know most of you at all anyway, but at least I see your pretty faces. I see how you react. I got some feedback weirdly twice today, Anastasia, from two different people about my camera angle on my camera, right? And I was like, it doesn't matter what camera angle I have because I'm looking at you all. Like there's no camera down here, camera's up there. And I can do I can do the newscaster thing. I could just look in it and look with warm eyes and smile, and y'all feel like I'm looking at you, but I can't see you, right? And I understand you have things going on in your life and et cetera, but you know, at this point, this is the best we can do. Like, I don't know where all of you live. I can't plan a jump yet, right? I know see some of you in person from time to time, but you know, help yourself, help each other. Get it? So, thank you. I finally worked the guilt out. Getting more cameras on. Excellent. Okay. So, with that little thing, we need help. I also we're building this meditation app. We're doing some fundraising, but we're going to need someone to lead that project. We're going to need like a product manager. We're going to need someone who can like manage coders and can manage design and can manage all this other stuff. Because Geshe Michael looked at me and said, "Great, Tim, you lead this project, but you're not allowed to do it." I was like, okay. All right, get it. Aye, Captain. Understood. So, but I'll help you make content. Anyway, so pass it along. Let me know what you think. So anyway, now we're getting to my favorite topic, which is meditation. And we just finished the section on joyful effort. Where the heck is it? There it is. In the perfection of joyful effort, and we're moving into the perfection of meditation. So this is my favorite topic. So I apologize for any kind of passion that I might have, because this is where it's all at. And so I already kind of started with this, is that Shanti Deva is like, why do we need to meditate? And he's like, okay, we're doing all these other things. We're generous. We're trying to be good people, right? We have our vows and, just our general good morality, good ethics, and then we have our, perfection of patience. And then we have our joyful effort, and then why do we then really need to meditate? Like, we're doing all these good seeds, but what is the point of meditation? And he basically says, we have to tame the wild beast of ourselves. And what we mean by that is we have to tame the mental afflictions, the negative emotions. We have to find a way to permanently attenuate them, right? Now, this gets very tricky, and I find it oftentimes. Okay, I got time. I find it often that we get into this rhetoric for ACIers or Buddhists in general, right? It's coming from seeds, right? Or that, oh, it's the two husbands in the kitchen. There's one husband there that's there because of seeds, and there's one that's not there because of seeds. And when I get angry, I'm angry at the one who's not there. That's perfect. But what do we do? Like, there's this level of shame that seems to come up in these communities, that when someone has these kinds of afflictions that they can't control, because you can't control the seeds that are arising in the moment, when people get upset with each other, when there is anger, when there is frustration or jealousy or a whole host of other afflictions like pride, these things come up, and they come up in spiritual communities because we're human, right? But somehow we're better than that, right? And so we bypass it. right? And we do this bypassing where it's like, oh, well, I'm ashamed of my mental affliction, so I'm not going to be angry, right? And then you kind of create all of these mechanisms to hide the emotion while you're having the emotion, not recognizing that the emotion itself is coming from a seed anyhow. Parentheses, that doesn't mean go start yelling at people when you're upset. Not what I'm saying. Okay. But like an emotion, like emotional intelligence needs to be like, well, look, I am upset right now. I'm experiencing anger. Right. And what do you do with that? Like, how do you let it burn out? How do you navigate it? How do you even have the freaking awareness to recognize that you're experiencing an emotion versus being the emotion? There's a difference, right? Because most of the time when we have reactions, we think we're that. Like the cool thing happened to me the other night. I had 2 really phenomenal weeks. I was a week in Kyoto, a week in Korea. I got back to Kyoto and I was here for 2 days by myself mostly. And right about an hour or two before everyone else arrived, I'm just hanging out, I'm having dinner, lunch by myself. All of a sudden, my back started hurting, like not like, ooh, that hurts a little bit, like level 7 of 10, no reason at all pain. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, and I'm watching my mind like getting mad. I'm getting mad at my body. I'm getting mad at, like, I'm just like having this secondary reaction to the pain. I'm like, I just had 2 effing good weeks. Why right now? Can I just not, can I have one tour where I don't have this pain? Just one, just give me one fucking tour, right? No, Yasheng and I were talking about this the other day, last week in Kyoto. It's like, there's always some freaking problem, right? you know, and I just was like, and then I watched myself. I was like, there was this thing that popped up, and this is what happens. Like, I was like, well, I'm having pain, yes, but the reaction to the pain is a different issue, right? Did I have to be mad at myself? Did I have to be mad at my body? No, I didn't have to be mad at that at all. And I realized that there were 2 separate seeds going off. One seed was the pain. The second seed was the anger. And normally what happens, I get mad at myself, and then I have this whole cycle of things that happen. Oh my God, it's going to hurt like this forever. Oh my God, I'm never going to be able to serve people. Oh my God, I'm going to be stuck in bed for the rest of my life. Have you ever had that problem? Like you have a pain and you're a sickness and you think the rest of your life is going to be this way? Natalia, yes. Right. And then you go through this whole thing. You're like, and then all those other, you're just like, dude, your back just hurts a little bit. Right. And I was like, wow, 2 different seeds, not related to each other whatsoever. And then everybody showed up and it was great. Everyone hugged each other and we they went to their hotel room. I didn't complain about it once. I still had a smile on my face. I'm still engaging everyone. I laid down and I was like, oh, well, maybe this is just a purification. Like maybe I don't have to be angry about this. You know, I could just rejoice that I had 2 weeks without a problem. How about that? Let's rejoice in the 2 weeks that I did have nice back versus the moment now that just like sucks. And like, eventually I fell asleep. I woke up and the last couple of days, 2 or 3 days have been like, but it hasn't affected me. I'm not upset about it. Right. I haven't lost any sleep. I lost sleep over the other problem that we're having. Right. But can you see what I'm saying? Like, if you can separate it vis-a-vis meditation, vis-a-vis your capacity to watch what's happening, then you're able to tame the wild beast of your mind. And that's what Shantideva is saying. I have a picture for you all because I like pictures. Here's my ACI porn for you. Just kidding. Here's your picture. Trans others, don't repeat everything I say sometimes. Be judicious. That was a time to be judicious. But the wild beast of your mind. All right. And that's what's going on here is, hold on, sorry, wrong page. Sorry. Come on, computer. Okay. All right, there we go. So it's like, if you just allow yourself to be agitated, or if you just allow yourself to have anger, or you allow yourself to be lazy or mentally dull, right? You're just going to waste this opportunity, and we'll see you next time. Right? We'll see you next life. And that's a real thing. Like literally your mind is in the jowls of this wild beast. And they're your mental afflictions. You see. And that's what he's saying, is that meditation is the antidote to those wild negative emotions. Oh, wait, Tim, I thought the seeds were the antidote. Yes, but you have to have the seeds ripen. Okay. So if we really want to clear up, if we really want to clear up our battle with ourselves, battle with our negative emotions. Because look, bad things are going to happen. We can't stop them from happening, right? 2 good weeks, then your back hurts. Great, Tim. Oh, everything's great. Oh, but then the funding just stopped. Damn. Right? What's the next thing that's going to happen? Someone else is going to get sick. Someone else is going to die. A bomb's going to go off somewhere else. I mean, we'll eventually change these seats. But how are we going to be with it? Can we use these moments as opportunities? It's like, can you create the space in between one ripening and the next ripening? Like, can you find a thing happens, and then you go into the space between that thing and the next moment, and there's this space where it's like, what's going to ripen next? And then there's this thing that happens around having the choice to have a reaction, and what's going to come out. And if you start feeling certain kinds of emotions, can you notice the anger before it becomes anger? Can you notice the movement of your prana in the subtle ways that would would move in a way that creates anger inside you? Oh, that's the beginning of anger. Oh, that's the beginning of upset. Oh, that's the beginning of that silly story that I'm always going to be like this. Like, can you feel the beginning of the story before it becomes the story? Can you notice the anger before it becomes anger? And then, was it ever anger to begin with? And that's how you purify the seeds. That's how you purify all of that through meditative concentration. So Shantideva says that like we need single-pointed meditation. We need single-pointed shamatha. That was redundant. We need shamatha, which is single-pointed meditation. But it's not just that. It's we call it shine in Tibetan, right? Shamatha in Sanskrit. We call it meditative quietude in English, which is a stupid name. I mean, it's a beautiful translation, but no one's ever going to say, I need to reach meditative quietude. Okay, that doesn't do anything for anybody. And so mainly what we're talking about is it's a single pointedness. A picture for this. I do. This is my favorite picture of the day. All right. Single pointed meditation. Okay. This is shamatha. AF for translators means this whole sentence means single as fuck. Okay. Good luck translating that. Okay. And I mean this as single pointed meditation, like that's how I mean it. Okay. It's not just being single pointedly meditating on it. It is like full of like the shining glicitude. Okay. Good luck with that one. The shining glicitude of the expression single as fuck. All right. There's a glory in that statement. Okay. Because it's a single pointedness that's imbued, like it's imbued, like immersed in the exceptional bliss of practiced ease, Xinjiang. Xinjiang. Okay. Due to having deep single pointed meditation on an object. So once you develop single pointed focus, and you have that for quite a while, and you have it properly, which we're going to talk a little bit more about soon in Lam Rim, when we get to that place, the practice ease of single pointed meditation should begin to create a pleasurable feeling, an exceptional blissful feeling of practice eased in the mind and the body. All right. So it's not just Tingzen single pointed meditation. It's that plus this like general experience of just goodness. All right. Because you can have kind of single pointed focus with dullness, and that's kind of just spaced out. But there's this thing that happens when you have the proper amount of focus with, we'll call it, what's the word I want to call it? In Tibetan, they call it nar. It's a kind of exceptional engagement with an object. And nar is something that you would have like, like, imagine you're a kid and you're playing in the sandbox. And all of a sudden 4 hours pass and you have zero concept of 4 hours passing, right? And you're just like in the sand making castles and doing all this stuff, right? And all of a sudden, like your mom calls you for dinner and you're like, and you don't hear her because you're into your sandcastles. Right? You're just immersed. Like when you're immersed into a good movie, right? And you don't hear distractions, right? Like you're eating the popcorn, right? And you just get into the movie. And eventually, like, you're so into the movie, you might be like mid popcorn bite, immersed. That is like what shamatha with this practiced ease shine xinjiang, excuse me, like this exceptional bliss in the body, this nar. Okay. Speaking of which, if you want to watch a really fun movie, it's called Inside Out. I watched it the other day in Korea. All right, super cute. And it's all about how to deal with your mental afflictions for children. I kind of took it myself as being a child in that. So that's a total aside. All right. So you're in this like deep state of meditation, which, by the way, what is the cause of good meditation? Hi, Pia. It's good to see you. Do you think your meditation? Yes, thank you, Elena. Right. Do you think sitting on your cushion is the reason you have good meditation? If you were irritated on the inside all the time and you think you're going to be a good meditator, forget it. Oh, but Tim, you told me meditation purifies my negative emotions. Yes. Well, how do I purify the negative emotion if I'm not meditating? Oh, you have to be moral. Oh, but how do I have a good meditation if I'm being moral, but I have the anger inside of me? Yes, it's slightly circular, but you have to figure it out. You have to think about it. You have to have good ethics. You have to take care of other people. So your mind isn't bothered. So you can purify it. But if you have a low level radiation irritation going on in your life, your meditation will not improve. People come to me and they get irritated. They're irritated with me, or I'm not behaving the way they want me to, and blah, 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 right? There's all these things, and in my mind, I'm like, I could karma blame them and say, well, that's your seeds. But I'm like, well, that's not going to be helpful. And it's kind of my seeds to see this person like this. So I start looking for my own low level radiation, my own low level anxiety, my own low level irritation, like background irritation with things. Right. And I purify it. And guess what? That problem that student had last week just goes away. And I didn't have to talk to them. Right? And that's not how it works. Talking doesn't solve the problem. I mean, it can. And I do believe in talking to people when you have problems. And I do believe in communicating. And I do believe in all of those things. But they aren't going to solve the problem if you don't have the seed to solve the problem. Right? So the whole idea to establish this deep state of focus, which then transfers over to the rest of your life. Come on. Like, how exciting is it? How exciting is it? I mean, maybe I'm a total nerd, but how exciting is it to be sitting at lunch by yourself in Japan? Your back starts hurting, and then you're able to separate the pain from the anger and realize they're not connected. No connection between the two. That was awesome. Mr. Nerd over here. Okay. I wanted to celebrate with it, and no one to celebrate with. That's a different seed. I'm working on that one. Working on the loneliness seed. But you see, like, that is something that you can do. You can do that. Like, how it's liberating. This is what we mean by liberation. Eventually, liberation in the largest sense of nirvana would be where you never even have the anger to even separate from the pain. Right? It wouldn't arise anymore. But there's a huge liberation in being able to see how all the things that you thought were you are actually in a lot of ways unrelated record players going over and over again. Unrelated record tracks just playing that seem like they're all part of the same harmonious oneness of you. Anastasia, please use that in a video. That was really good. Someday she's going to do all these outtakes of me like being like, I set you up for this one. I set you up for that video. I don't set her up for those things. She's doing a great job, by the way. Thank you, Anastasia. But there's a liberation in that. There's a liberation in being able to see how reactions that you have today are tangentially unrelated to anything that's going on. They're habits. They're just karmic habits. And some of them are very traumatic, and I understand that. And I'm dealing with it myself. I'm not diminishing them or bypassing them. But if you can feel the difference or the space between it, then you have a kind of liberation. And that's what we're trying to get. Good God. Hi, Shanti. It's wonderful to see you. So how do we get there? The main way to get there is called Michokme. That's a nice Tibetan word, Michokme. It's called the no lack of time. And this is a particular meditation level that we need to achieve to be able to see emptiness directly. It's a kind of deep shamatha, right? It's the first concentration level of the form realm. Don't worry about it. Samten Tangpo. All right. It's the first part of the first stage of the form realm meditation level. Okay. The point is that there's a certain level of concentration you need to get your mind into in order to then turn it onto itself, in the sense of being able to turn it around and see where everything's coming from. Like you need to be able to go like turn it around, like turn around the perception that you think things are coming this way, but they're coming that way. They're coming from you. And you need that level of stability to be able to turn it. Now, the thing is this is why we spend so much time talking about emptiness. Because when you get to that type of meditation, it is super attractive. It feels super good. Like no mental afflictions can arise. And your mind is just like blissed out. Like your body's so blissed out, you're actually moved your mind out of the physical realm. Its perception of the physical realm, let's call it that way. And you can just bliss out and stay there forever. In fact, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper beyond that level because it feels nice. It just is lovely to be there. But there's a danger because those seeds will eventually wear out, or you'll die in that meditation and then you'll be reborn in that form realm level or formless realm level, which we already discussed, which means, you'll be then blissed out for zillions of eons until that seed wears out, right? And then you'll have to do it all again. So that's why we have a high emphasis on not just achieving shamatha. We're putting emptiness in the beginning so we don't miss it when we get there. Because it's so easy to like plow through that stage. If your meditation becomes good enough, it's easy just to like miss the exit. You're on cruise control at that point. Your Tesla is just driving down the highway, it just goes, right? No problem. But you just missed that exit called seeing emptiness directly, which is an exit, right? Otherwise, you just, you get on that nice, your car's just going around that racetrack. And you just feel better and better and better, right? So the point is we need to get that single pointed meditation. We need to then go so deep into it that we kind of move our mind in a way out of the perception of the desire realm. I'm going to check on that language I just used and make sure I'm accurate. But you move your mind into the preliminary level of the first level, concentration level of the form realm. Don't worry about the words. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. The point is, do it. All right. And then at that point, you shove your mind into wisdom. You put in that microscope of that thing you're focusing on, you put emptiness into that, which means the lack of something not coming from seeds, right? Which is something like, how do I meditate on that, Tim? Well, we'll talk about that in all of our meditation classes we're going to be offering. Okay. How do you sneak your mind in? How do you slide in? How do you cancel all the other appearances? How do you cancel the things that are coming at you? How do you withdraw all appearances onto themselves? How do you do that? We'll talk about it. So Shantideva goes into this, right? And he's like, this is where we need to go. So Vipassana, which is the next, they call it special insight, Laktong in Tibetan. So basically, you're in this bliss of practiced ease because of the power of the object that you're focused on. And it's based upon your shamatha, which is based upon your single pointed meditation that you have. So it's wisdom that you put into the microscope of the meditation, right? You're focused completely. What are you focused on? An absence. How do I focus on an absence, Tim? You'll know when you get there. Okay, don't worry about it. Just keep trying. So the next thing that Shantideva talks about, I don't have enough time here, is what prevents us from dropping it. That's all great. That's great, Tim. Let's get shamatha. Let's get vipassana. Great. Let's get single pointed focus where we feel wonderful, and let's then put emptiness as our object and absence in front of that microscope of perfect meditation. Let's do it, right? And then what gets in your way? What is the thing that stops you? And we talked about it earlier, your ethics are part of that. But there's other elements that are in the way. So what are those things? Firstly, he says, is primarily is that you are so focused on me and mine. That you're completely focused on me, that is separate and independent, and the things which are mine, which are separate and independent. Right? You think you and the parts of you belong to you from their own side. And there's a whole teaching on self-cherishing, a whole teaching on Doc Chenzen, like holding to oneself. All right. And so this picture is these, they're fighting over a toy, right? It's kind of what we're doing all the time. We're fighting over our own toys, the toys of me and mine, right? And so when we're craving me, when we're focused on me and me, right? Then it's like you have desire for things that you want to have, like you want stuff to come to you. You want to have other people praise you. You need that, oh, I need to get, I'm sorry if you have mommy and daddy issues. I do too. So I can talk about it. Like you need your parents to praise you. You need their affirmation. And if you don't get it from them, then you need it from other people. And then you project those issues onto other people. Oh, please praise me. I need to be recognized by you. It's the me who needs to be seen by other people. And it's a real emotion and it's a real thing. How do you get people to recognize you? How do you get people to recognize you? Yes, you recognize others. When you go to the grocery store, don't treat the person who's swiping the barcodes like a barcode swiper. Ask them how they are. See them as a person. Recognize them. Recognize that they too are suffering. Recognize that they too have challenges. Recognize that that job is awful. Swiping barcodes all day long. Putting people's food into bags all day long. Like, make that person's day a lot nicer. And it's, you want to understand what people are doing, go get a job at a grocery store, do it yourself, right? And just watch how people ignore you and treat you. That's a great exchanging self and other meditation. Go get a job at all these different places. Go get a job at McDonald's. Serve some burgers and some French fries for a while. All right. And see how people treat you. And there's no shame in those. They're jobs, right? People need jobs. So recognize those people. Thank them. What a great service. You know how nice it is to go to the grocery store and have someone put all that stuff in a bag for me? Thank you. Oh, then they put it in the cart for me. Oh, then sometimes they even walk it out. They're like, oh, let me help you take that to your car, Tim. Right? Like, recognize the kindnesses that people do for you. Recognize how often people are actually being incredibly helpful for you to have a somewhat enjoyable life and experience. The flight attendant on the airplane literally has to stare at people who are in this like metal tube and give them like little tiny bags of pretzels and like 500 people on an airplane. What would you like to drink? I have some water. I have some sparkling water. I have some Coke, right? This is all. Oh, by the way, thank you very much. Someone has brought all this stuff to me, Persis, right? Thank you. Like, there's Persis. She brought all this stuff to me. Let me show you. Here's Persis, right? She brought me this water. She brought me this water, and she brought me this water. Oh, no, she brought me this one. I'm sorry. That's a different one, right? She brought me all these different beverages to make sure that I am hydrated and caffeinated with bubbles and without bubbles, right? All the different things that I like. Thank you, Persis. Very much appreciate you, right? But someone did that for me. Not only did she do it for me, she's leaving them at my door. Persis, so Persis leaves me a message and says, "Oh, Tim, I left you some sparkling water at your door." Great, thanks. Right? She left it in this cute little bag. This is a funny story. This is purposeful. Right? She put it in this little cute little bag, right, at my door. Right? So I get up, I see the message, I say thank you, take a shower, do all my morning stuff. Right? I open up the door, and I thought it was a dog, and I jumped and screamed. And and yelped, and like my heart rate went up thinking that there was like some dog or animal at my hotel room door, right? And then I laughed at myself. I'm like, this is hysterical, right? Now that was not good meditation at all. I mistook a bag full of San Pellegrinos with a scary animal at my hotel room door. But thank you, Persis. I very much appreciate it. You can leave a scary dog at my door. All right, I'll be fine. But yeah, people are making efforts all day long, and you're not even recognizing how they're serving you so you can have a nicer life. So recognize them. Notice that they did something for you. Well, what if the cashier at the grocery store is grumpy? Great. Even more opportunity to practice. They've been there for 8 hours. Their back hurts. Their eyes are bugging out. They've been hearing the same beep, beep, beep all day long. They probably dream in beeps, right? Right? They're the only people in the world who's memorized the numbers, the secret code for every single fruit and vegetable there is in the world. And they can tell you the organic and the non-organic number. They know the 20 different types of apples and all the different codes they have, right? They dream in fruit codes. 4076. What's 4076 for $50? No, it's 4011. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I think. Not allowed to look it up.
Bananas.
Damn it. Yes. It's a banana. Yes. Is that Mike?
Yeah.
All right, Mike, I give you $50 for the bananas. All right. But the point is that person's had a really shitty day and they've just been beeping all day long and their back hurts, right? Give them a little bit of love. That's how you break your self-cherishing. It's also the seed to have continuity in the perception of me too. And that's a different story. That's a little bit of Kamala Shila for you in some other day. All right. What are we talking about? Oh, and the next part of my topic here is great. All right. So quickly, we're going to get through this. We're going to blow through this really quickly. What else gets in your way? Nagarjuna gives us some other things that get in our way. The 5 primary obstacles to meditation: restless desire, missing somebody, feelings of malice, drowsiness, like I'm getting tired because it's 10:30, right? If I try to meditate right now, forget it, I'd fall asleep, right? Dullness, attraction to the sense objects, and unresolved doubts. These are the 5 primary obstacles to meditation. Where else do we see the primary obstacles to meditation? I'll read it again. Restless desire and missing a person, feelings of malice, drowsiness and dullness, attraction to the senses, and unresolved doubts. Where do we see those 5 primarily? While waiting for money, aren't you waiting for the money to answer the question? Yes, Roxana, very good job. You did not wait for the money. I was about to offer it. The Bodhisattva vows. Right. They are literally, they are the Bodhisattva vows.
specific to concentration and meditation. And I have it up right now because I'm preparing teacher training stuff. Here are the vow cards. All right. Meditation obstacles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. The 7 primary descriptions or vows in the Bodhisattva vows are these 5 from Nagarjuna. If you ever wanted to know where they came from, that's where they came from. All right. This one, considering the pleasant sensation of meditation to be a personal attainment, is what we were talking about Michok Me. Like, don't get stuck in the goodness of the good feeling of meditation, and so you don't miss the exit of the exit of emptiness. All right. So those are the 5 main obstacles. All right. Now Shantideva goes off in a total left field moment. We're going to talk about this for the rest of the class for the last 10 minutes or so. Because he goes off in this whole discussion on romantic relationships. Like, what? And how romantic relationships are an obstacle to meditation. Like, oh, okay. So let's talk about it. All right. And I couldn't find a gender neutral picture that would include every single type of relationship that people have in the world. I apologize if I can't be general for everybody. So I found a sensual picture because I like sensuality. All right. So Shantideva discusses how our desires for others in a romantic way, in a sexual way, can be an obstacle to your meditation. Firstly, we're not saying don't have relationships. B, we're not saying don't have sexual relationships. 3, we're not saying don't enjoy them either. We're not saying any of those things. All right. But if you understand it all in the wrong way, it will become an obstacle to your meditation. And I've seen it so many times with Dharma practitioners. They become so obsessed with, I need a partner. I need my spiritual partner. And they're like this obsession with it, right? And I'm guilty of it myself. And I'm also guilty of promoting it as well. So guilty as charged. Okay. But part of it is also like a hook into Dharma. Sandra, how are you? Good to see you. See, if you turn on your camera, Tim might say hi. If you need validation, I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of myself. I need validation, so I'm validating others. Get it? It's about seeds. Anyway, if you misunderstand where a partner comes from, or where the love comes from, or where the pleasure comes from, it's going to be a huge obstacle to your meditation. You know, people are like, oh, I need a spiritual partner. Great. You want to know how to kill your meditation? Get a partner. And then misunderstand where the partner's coming from. Misunderstand why you now find everything they do irritating, or they irritate the crap out of you now that you moved in together. You were so in love before you moved in together. Now you're living together, and now you're just irritated at them leaving their underwear everywhere. Oh, you didn't do the dishes right. You didn't do your laundry. You make these weird fart sounds. You know, whatever it is, right? Now you're irritated with the person. And now your meditation sucks even more because all you're doing is complaining in your head about your partner. Okay.
I've seen it happen. It happened to me about 20 years, like 15 years ago. So, what does Shantideva say? Right? So Shantideva says, look, here's what happens to people, right? And there's afflictions in every single thing. You can read it in the reading. By the way, it is very it's not entirely, as I said, it's not entirely inclusive of all the possible relationships. Take it as an example. All right. At ACI, we welcome all types of relationships. And yes, we do welcome every type of person and every type of relationship. You love who you want to love, and we will accept you. And we will love you, and we will celebrate you. And there is a challenge within some of the Buddhist texts that are very, very culturally time. There's a time period problem. Okay. We might have to revise some of them. You know, for us, love is love. But I just wanted to point that out. So when you read it, you don't think that ACI is saying something that the text is not saying. So the first thing, here's what happens. First affliction is you beg them to be with you. You do all the things. You get dressed up, you get all pretty, you put on your cologne or your perfume, or you have like, I need to look this certain way. I shave in a certain way, or I cut my hair in a certain way, right? You know, and then you're just like, you've basically are like, please be with me. It's like Smeagol, be with me, like my precious, right? You've all done it before. You're all like, no, I'm not. Like, shut up. You've done it. Okay. And then you do whatever you can possibly do to attract them, including bad deeds. Okay. And I'm just talking subtle things, right? But, you know, in some ways, you know, people will do things like they'll have affairs. They will like fall out of love with one person, fall in love with the next person. Like they love new relationship energy, right? No shortage of that. You will even do things to ruin your reputation just to be with somebody. And you're blinded by it. I've done it before. Okay. I'm not talking like huge reputation negativity things, but like you watch people and you're just like, oh my God, you're just blindly in love and you don't even see it. You don't even see those red flags. You know, that's what you say to your friends. You know, like they don't even see the red flags because they're just willing to do whatever it takes to get in that relationship. And sometimes you'll even engage in reckless and dangerous behavior too. Or you'll use up all of your money and resources to get them. Right? Obsession. You become obsessed with somebody. Right? And Shantideva's like, that's so silly. He's like, you're so silly. And he's like, well, why, Shantideva? Why is this so silly? And this will be our last point for today. He said, he's basically like, that person that you are like obsessed with because of that beauty, because of whatever childhood trauma they're reenacting, you know, and I'm just simplifying and I'm just making jokes. But that person, how does he say this? Make sure I get this right. I'm going to read it because I think it's kind of beautiful and a little bit dark. It's like, as you lift her silken veil and look into her gentle, loving eyes, right? Imagine that moment of marriage, right? You lift the veil up and you just have this beauty and you're just like, your hearts are so connected. which is beautiful and wonderful when you understand the seeds of it. He says you should think at that moment when you lift the veil and you look into her beautiful eyes, right? Think about how this same face is going to lie rotting under a death shroud. And the birds of prey will come to the burial ground and lift that shroud off of that person and show you what they really look like, right? And they're going to like eat out the eyes and rip off the skin, and it's just going to be a skull there, right? And then you'll see what that person really looks like, and you will run away. That's what he says. That's the attitude you should have. Okay. But he's not saying don't have a relationship. He's not saying don't fall in love. He's not saying don't have a beautiful marriage. He's not saying don't have incredibly heart connecting love making. Okay. Right. But what he's saying is that understand what's going on. Right. Everybody's body will change. The beauty of the 20s turns into the beauty of the 30s, and then the 40s, and then the 50s, and everything is beautiful. But age happens, right? And so what you find beautiful about people is the deep connections we have with them, right? The most beautiful person will have the stinkiest poop. Sorry. Okay. Get it? Like, but if you understand the seeds, if you understand what creates a beautiful relationship, how does one get a beautiful relationship? Well, have a devotional, if you want to have someone who lives with you, have a devotional relationship with how you take care of your house. Dedicatedly take care of lonely people. Respect other people's relationships. Celebrate other people's relationships. Remove your jealousy. Stop being jealous about other people's goodness. Coffee meditate on the beauty that you see in other people, the beauty that you see around you, the wonderful relationships that are there. And then when someone walks in that door, it'll be beautiful, and you'll know why, and you'll know how to keep it too. And then you can turn into something that's a little bit more meaningful, maybe something a little bit more spiritual. You understood where it came from, you know how to maintain it, and you know what you could do with it together. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a hugely beautiful thing. That's Shanti Deva for you. You want to have good meditation? These are some of the things to do. We'll continue with this next week. I think we're going to go back to our normal time at 6 a.m. Arizona next week. I'll be back in the United States this weekend rather. So thanks for joining. Very much appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, translators. Really, really appreciate everything that you're doing. And please do think about what we talked about in the beginning of like, what's your, like, why would you even get on the meditation question in the first place? Like, where do you want to go with it? How do you want to serve other people? Like, what is the impact and how do you want to make that impact? And how can ACI help you? And how could you end up helping others through ACI? So thank you all for joining. And we'll take a 25-minute break if you want to stick around for Lam Rim. And let's say goodbye to each other. Let's give a little heart to everybody. Yay.
Thank you so much.
Gracias, Tim.
Gracias, Tim.
Thank you,
Thanks, Tim.
Tim.
Thank you,
Thank you, all the
Tim.
volunteers. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yeah, good night.
Tim.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take a break. See you soon.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.